Our next reader is Katherine Moore. As a ghostwriter, Katherine Moore has brought 13 books to publication and has managed 15 book projects for university and independent presses. As an editor, she has worked with hundreds of fiction and memoir authors. Her clients range from philanthropists to lawyers, pastors and poets, screenwriters and spiritual leaders, musicians, and real-life cowboys. She is currently at work on her novel, The Popes of Austin, Texas. Please help me welcome Katherine.
So my book is a multi-generational novel told from the perspective of a grandmother, her daughter, and that daughter's daughter. And the grandmother is a heroin junkie, and she's been in prison, and she's now going home to help find her daughter who's run away from home. She chose a middle seat over the wheel rim of the bus, thinking it would afford her more legroom, and lit a cigarette. The bus pulled out of the station and fits and starts gaining momentum once it reached the freeway, and downtown Houston melted away, its spires and towers disappearing behind them. And the city became a connection of intricate parallel lines and perfectly planned communities guarded by ugly strip malls and terrible landscaping. The driver announced 20 minutes into their 4-hour drive there would be 2 stops in Columbus and LaGrange, and the rest of the passengers groaned. And normally Carrie Ann would have welcomed the stops. Confined spaces reminded her of prison, but she wanted to get to Austin quickly. Winnie was missing, and she needed to find her daughter. She needed to make sure she was safe. "What's that?" a small blonde head said, peeking over a seat in front of Carrie Ann. "It's a pressed flower album." Carrie Ann said this bluntly, with no elaboration. The last thing she wanted to do was to speak with the child. "Is it yours?" the kids asked. He stood up now and looked straight down at her, not taking a hint. The child was young, maybe 4 or 5, a boy, but he had long blonde curls like a girl, and his eyes were a startling deep brown in contrast to the whiteness of his hair and skin. "Yeah, it's mine," she said, blowing smoke out the window and turning her head away. But he stood up now and he stared directly at her, and his mother's head was in a book. "What's in it? Can I see it? Can you show me? Does it have pictures in it? I have my very own picture book. It's got all the tallest buildings in the world. Do you want to see it?" And with that, he reached down, grabbing something from his seat, and shot up with an exuberant smile and handed her a children's book, the kind with the thick cardboard pages. And she noticed he had clean fingernails, and she remembered Winnie's fingernails, and they had never been that clean. Carrie Ann did not want to talk. She wanted to close her eyes and drift away, but this kid's earnestness was too hard to ignore. And she took the book and she opened it. Inside were drawings of skyscrapers and skylines. "America still has the tallest. It's in Chicago. My daddy's going to take me there one day. He said so." With this, the mother looked up from her book and turned to Carrie Ann and smiled. And her face was round, cherub-like, similar to her son. "I'm sorry, he's obsessed with tall buildings and wants to tell everyone he's going to Chicago. I hope he isn't bothering you." "No, not really," Carrie Ann said. What she wanted to say is, "Yes, he is." She wanted to say, "Kids don't like me." But she knew this was rude. Prison and rehab and work placement programs had made sure she kept her thoughts to herself. Once she started to work at the hotel, she was trained to keep her head down and be polite to every guest, no matter how they spoke to her. She knew she could lose her job, and until 2 years ago, when she was still on parole, she would have gone back to the low-security facility if she'd messed up. Even though being rude wasn't a reason to be fired, Carrie Ann knew she had to watch her mouth. "My name is Frank West. What's yours?" "I'm Carrie Ann Pope." "Like the Pope in Italy?" "Yeah, like that Pope, but it's just my last name. I don't know him or anything." "There's no Pope now, right? He died, right, Mommy? He died, right?" His mother looked up from her book and glanced at her son. "Yes, Frankie, that's right. He died. And they're deciding who the new Pope is going to be." "Is that when the smoke is going to come out? Like when they decide on TV? Can I watch the smoke like you promised?" "Yes, of course, of course. Now turn it on and sit down. Don't bother the nice lady. Do you want a snack?" Carrie Ann did not think a little boy should know so much about dead popes and smoke. She once went to a Catholic cathedral downtown with the girl across the street after a sleepover when she was 9. And the sleepover was fun, but going to church had filled Carrie Ann's head with images of bloodied hands and feet nailed to crosses, and the taste of sour wine in her mouth. And she thought Catholics were scary, with their selling of indulgences and a pope who had his mouth to God. Carrie Ann gave the book back to Frank, and he turned around at the mention of food, and she could see through the line between the seats in front of her the boy's mother opening up tinfoil wrapped sandwiches, thick cuts of homemade bread slathered with mustard, and a thick slice of ham in between. She unwrapped more, carrots and apples cut into perfect stars, and Frank took the food without hesitation and ate it greedily. And Carrie Ann wondered if Winnie would be so trusting with her if she'd handed her an apple slice. Mike, the chef from the hotel, was a junkie like her, and this connection made him think he could teach her how to cook, as if sharing an affinity for heroin made the kitchen a mutual playground. But Mike was a good guy, and he took care of her, always saving bits of her favorite dishes and trying to get her to eat more than her usual boiled eggs and pieces of lunch meat. Carrie Ann wanted to please him, so she made sure she paid attention to his lessons. She had managed to master a few basics: chicken and spaghetti and meatloaf, crepes, and a somewhat delicious ham and cheese quiche. She had the skills now that might impress her daughter. She could take the peel off an apple with one complete movement of a knife. She could make from scratch Winnie's favorite buttermilk biscuits. When she was still Winnie's mother, before she'd gone to prison, Carrie Ann used to take home the biscuits left over from the breakfast rush at the diner where she'd worked. She'd stuff sachets of margarine and little pots of strawberry jam into the pockets of her uniform, and Winnie never minded that the biscuits were stale. Instead, she'd use up all the pots of jam on one biscuit. When she found her daughter, Carrie Ann was going to make the perfect buttermilk biscuit for her, and she was going to cut stars from apples that she peeled with one magical stroke.